So the trailer to Astartes 2 has dropped, and I'll admit this looks great as well. I don't like getting hyped for things, right? I don't like bigging something up and getting excited for it and then only to be let down when it turns out that it sucks. But I have to say, Astartes was incredible. You can find compilations online of the entire original Astartes video, which you should watch. The guy who made it is incredible. Apparently is a one-man project, and it was just the best representation of Space Marines that has ever been put to, well, film. Probably not the right term. But anyway, Astartes 2 trailer was dropped, and so you'll have to go watch this on your own, because I'm not going to play it, because of course Games Workshop is the kind of company that copyright strikes. I don't want my video getting taken down or anything, but I can use stills from it, so we'll scrub through and see what we can find. So it begins with this quote, "Many brotherhoods united in purpose. We are the shield that slays," obviously talking about the shield of the Imperium, the Space Marines. And we begin with this scene, which is great. It's just a Space Marine overlooking a giant city or something, Imperial City. And this looks very Astartes. And one thing that you get from this whole thing is it seems very much that whoever the Astartes chap was, I can't remember his name, Smirina or something, he has clearly still got like complete creative control of this. And the thing is, why wouldn't he? There have been lots of rumors that he's been fired, or that this is happening, or that, you know, he didn't have enough control or whatever. And I always wondered about those. I was like, why would Games Workshop? I mean, Astartes has just been universally praised, right? Everyone loves Astartes. I've never heard anyone criticize it in even the smallest amount, actually. So if you were Games Workshop, why wouldn't you just be like, here's the money, chop chop, let's get it going. And it seems that that's actually what they've done. It just took a while because I guess Astartes takes ages to produce. But as you can see, the general tone and feel exactly the same as the Astartes series that he did originally. And of course that includes giant epic things like giant backdrops. If there's some guy in, I don't know, some sort of tower or something with candle lights around it. I don't know what these things are, and that's the point. It doesn't really matter what they are. What they are cool looking. Really, really cool looking. And of course we get to, you know, Space Marines standing around looking epic. Again, looking just as good as his original series, with a proper plasma gun there, which is nice, not just the plasma pistol. And you don't get to see too much, right? They don't do too much. There's a bit of, you know, they begin sort of shooting at something off screen. You don't get to see it, but it looks and feels and not just sounds. The sounds are all basically the same, which is good. The same sort of sound of the good chunky bolt sound. And that was another thing in the Astartes original series. The sound design was unbelievably good. It was incredibly crisp, and the timing is what mattered. I'm always reminded actually very much of the way the music and the atmosphere builds until the guy shoots the plasma gun across the bridge at the multi-laser that's shooting at him, and you say a whop, oof, and it, you know, destroys it. But that's the end of the scene. It's just very, very slick, very, very good. And this seems to have very similar sound design, and also very similar model design, I guess you'd say. I mean, obviously they're Space Marines, but there's a particular way that he presents his Space Marines, which is with a huge amount of gravity, right? These things feel serious. Whatever these guys are doing feels momentous, epic, important, right? Because the thing is, if you go back to like 2010's Ultramarines film, not only was the 3D animation very bad, but it didn't feel like it had weight. But what this chap does with his animations, and there was no speaking in Astartes, or at least none of the Space Marines spoke. He does everything. He communicates the mentality of the Space Marines using their motions. And the motions are very purposeful and direct, but also there are pauses to allow things to grow. And even if they're only a second or two pause, like you can feel like a decision is being made in the mind of the Space Marine, and then super brutal violence takes place, and then that's the end of the problem. Whatever decision that needed to be made had been made, and it was rough. So anyway, you've got Space Marines slaying Xenos, which are, of course, Tyranids, and you've got, again, just really the whole way the action flows, which was the important thing about Astartes. The motions of the Space Marines, the fact they felt trained, they felt sharp. In many other Space Marine movie animations, and Games Workshop is guilty of this, like the Space Marines just feel like they're moving, right? They're just, oh, I put my gun there, I point my gun there. But these guys feel like they're doing some kind of martial arts. Like they're moving and moving and moving to definite positions to do something definite to get the kill. It made them feel ultra professional. It made them feel incredibly dangerous. It made it feel that these guys have been doing it for like 100 years. And you know, they don't need to talk to one another. They just, it falls into place. And all of that sense of the Space Marines comes out through this. So we see the Tyranids, we see the Orcs. Now the Orcs are interesting because they're not cartoonish greenskins, actually. Here are like 4 Orcs beating to death a Space Marine. I can't show you very well, I'm afraid. But you can see here, he's clobbering the Space Marine. And a bunch of them are clobbering. And the Orcs, they're not like, you know, pea green, right? I'm sure they do have green skin. It's just that whatever lighting on whatever planet that they have has coloured them. But the Orcs feel very, there we go, all clubbing the Space Marine down with their big choppers. The Orcs are Warhammer Orcs, but they look much more grim dark than the Warhammer Orcs. Because, of course, in normal 40k, the Orcs are light-hearted comic relief in many ways, but actually facing Orcs in reality would not be funny, and it wouldn't be comic relief. This would be one of the worst. I mean, there are lots of bad things. One of the worst things that could happen to you. And anyway, so this is the Space Marine getting clubbed by a bunch of Orcs, and they look brutal. The motion is great. You know, it's easy for 40k units to look like they're too cumbersome, right? To look like they wouldn't move fluidly and that they're big and bulky and stupid looking because they come from tabletop miniatures that were made 40 years ago, right? But in Astartes, he doesn't make them feel too cumbersome to move. And so all the motions are very swift, very dangerous. And so the Orcs themselves, as well as the Tyranids, like come across as very sinister, right? These are things that we need the Space Marines for. And what this does is imbue the Space Marines with that aspect of heroism that Games Workshop has actually been trying to denigrate for the past 5 years or so, since Warhammer was for everyone. Well, it's not. It's for people who like Warhammer. It's for people who like this, actually. It's for people who want there to be morally uncomplex heroes of humanity who, okay, well, you know, all the Space Marines aren't good guys. Yeah, well, everyone else is worse. Way worse. 10 times worse. And I would take 1 million Space Marines over one of these guys, thank you very much. And that's very much what comes through from this. And again, you get lots of these sorts of screens of different kinds of Space Marines. Now, I'm not a lore guy. I probably can't even identify what kinds of Space Marines these are, but they look so good. Again, the guy who makes these made the original Space Marines, and his Astartes thing look amazing, and bam, 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 we're getting exactly the same thing. So we're getting the same feel of motion, the same expertise, the same dangerous feeling of the Space Marine. Not just dangerous either. I mean, God, yeah, these things feel brutal, but he's making the universe feel brutal as well, which is excellent. And of course, you get some epic shots of just, you know, this dude going through a tunnel with a jetpack, which is cool. I mean, yeah, it's interesting. You got the Orcs there, again, looking grim dark, right? These aren't frivolous, because it's very easy. And my first army was Orcs when I was like 13 years old, and I got the second edition box set, and you had Space Marines and Orcs. Well, I took the Orcs, and a friend of mine took the Space Marines. And I liked the Orcs because they were funny. These are not funny. Like, these guys are scary, and that's really what Orcs would actually be like. Now, you've got the epic scenes, obviously. You've got Blood Angels fighting in the snow, and again, just looking cool, man. Just looking really cool. And everything looked gorgeous, like genuinely gorgeous. The whole the aesthetics is just done so perfectly well. Jump pack, blood angels, blah blah blah. Dude with a heavy bolter, looking badass, and again, all of the action scenes feel like Astartes action scenes. Like I said, I can't play them. I don't want to get copyright struck or anything, but looking great. You know, I assume that's a Predator that doesn't have any sponsons, but you see the battle scenes, you see the Tyranids running, and again, the Tyranids feel dangerous. You don't want these things reaching you. They feel swift, they feel deadly, they feel like there is a lot at stake. And that was always the great thing about the Astartes series initially. That it felt like high stakes. Like it felt like something serious was going on. And again, boom, another very serious looking Space Marine. Space Marines with gravitas. You'd love to see it. See the Dreadnought there. And what's interesting as well is that he's got the old Dreadnoughts in this, which I'm surprised. I would have thought they would have gone for the Redemptors. So I don't know why that is. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big Dreadnought respecter, to be honest. I love the original Dreadnoughts just because they are chunky bricks. And it was the Dreadnoughts and the Rhinos that first made me fall in love with Warhammer, to be honest. Especially the Dreadnoughts. The Space Marine Dreadnoughts, interestingly, and I didn't get one for like 30 years. I decided to play with the other factions, but the Space Marine Dreadnoughts really caught my eye. I just loved it. But anyway, yeah, Space Marines doing serious and important things, stuff going down, people getting beat. Look at the scale between the Power Armor Space Marine and normal man. Love it. Don't know who these guys are with their like Helldivers color scheme and cloaks. I don't know. I mean, if Lore Masters in the comments, let me know who these guys at 104 are, because I'm genuinely curious. And it's weird that they've got the sort of Helldivers color scheme and cloak. And don't get me wrong, it'd be a cute sort of nod to Helldivers if that is the case. But I'm not saying that it is. I have no idea. But again, looking badass. Everything about this, the aesthetics, the way they walk, you know, is purposeful. They look scary. They look like they've got missions that they have to undertake. They look serious, and you love to see it. This is exactly the kind of intensity that Space Marines should have, and it just pours out of Astartes. Never lacking. And of course, you've got them killing Tyranids and various other things, and then it goes to the end where you get the reveal of Terminator armor, which I'm going to be interested to see how that's represented, because Power Armor was represented as something that was very swift, but clearly very heavy. If you remember the footsteps in the original Astartes film, movie, shorts, whatever, these are big and heavy things, but they move quickly. The Terminators on the tabletop move no slower, so who knows how they're going to be represented, but that does look great. Not going to lie, that looks great. I'm really excited. I hate to say it. I don't like to hype. I don't like to Star Wars soy boy or anything. But the Astartes shorts were incredible, and this does look like a return to form. I'm not paying for Warhammer Plus, but that's something else. Anyway, so they've got this link on their website just to tell us a bit about it. And they did say, well, look, yep, it has been a while. And the creator of the original Astartes animation, Sayama, has been working closely with it, blending his incredible flair for action and storytelling with decades of Warhammer. Blah, blah, blah. Right, so he is actually still there, as far as we can tell from what they say. All of those rumours appear to have just been not true, or maybe there was an interregnum, like he went away and came back for whatever reason. I don't know. But it doesn't really matter. As long as they're going to get it done, that's the important thing. So they say this teaser trailer is not actually clips from the new animation, instead showing a compilation of shots that represent the former lives of the characters that will appear in the show. There's a pretty unsubtle hint at the end to the nature of the final story. Will leave you to speculate and start putting the pieces together yourselves. Well, I haven't gone in any great detail to study this yet. This is just a first reaction. But I don't know what that is. I'll let people who are more intimately familiar with the lore do that. I'm someone who plays the games. But they say Astartes 2 is set to land in 2026. What? I've got another year to wait, at least. Maybe a year and a half, nearly 2 years. Not happy with that. But of course, then they end with a shill for Warhammer Plus, which I'm not going to get. But 2026, man. Not happy about that. I wanted that sooner. I hate to be a Funko Pop collector over this, but like, okay, this looks great. I'm very excited about it. It does look good. It seems to have the atmosphere and magic of the Astartes original shorts. And I like the fact that they've called it Astartes 2, actually. Right, what's interesting is that Games Workshop could have essentially gone, well, we didn't make Astartes, so we're just going to pretend that doesn't exist. And Games Workshop is the kind of like precious over their IP company where it's entirely possible they could have done this. But I guess even GW are like, okay, Astartes was great and is actually what we wanted. Yeah, just make that for us, please. It looks like maybe. And so they've called it Astartes 2, so they've essentially taken ownership of that and said, yeah, that's canon, essentially, is what they're saying about Astartes, which is very interesting. So hopefully it is just the magic of Astartes, just in a longer form and with more budget behind it so they can do more with it. Letting the guy who made Astartes as a passion project carry on making great things.